Hi guys, welcome back. Today I finished up the book of John. And the book of John is interesting because just a second here. I apologize. Should have done this beforehand. Okay, so the book of John is interesting because Matthew, Mark, and Luke all pretty much tell the same stories. There's not much variance there. I mean, there's variance in the way that they tell it and stuff, and the words they use, obviously. But there's really not any difference in the stories. And then you get to the book of John, and then we learn about Nicodemus, and we learn about what else? I don't know. There's a lot, and it's interesting too because John is the one apostle that always references himself in the stories, and you can tell how he references himself because he references himself as that apostle that Jesus loved. For example, in John, we learn that as they were sitting around the table for the Last Supper, John was the one that was leaning on Christ as they sat. And we know that because John talked about it. John's also got a lot of, I think I already said that, how he has different stories than the other three Gospels. I mean, he still mentions some that are in all four, but John goes into detail about, like I said, Nicodemus, and then also Lazarus, and some other things that kind of clarify some of the stories in the other three Gospels. And then I listened to the book of Acts, and essentially from like Acts 10 on, it's like they'll talk about the missions of the apostles, and then Paul. So from Acts, like I said, from Acts 10 on, it's like Paul's personal missionary journal. Then I got up to Thessalonians, I think, something like that. And essentially, the book of Acts is Paul's ministry, and then he writes a bunch of letters to the places that he's already established, and just making sure that they're sound in their understanding of the gospel and things. Because at this point, Paul knows he doesn't have much time left. I mean, he was arrested, and then he's like, "Wait, I'm a Roman," and they're like, "Crap." So he got out of that. Oh, that reminds me. One other thing about the book of John that none of the other gospel authors mention is that John talks about how the Pharisees and the Sadducees would try to get Christ after he would say something in the temple or after he would teach the people. And John's the only one that mentions how he gets away and it's not his time yet. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. It was a good day of reading. One thing I would invite all of you to do is when we talk about studying the scriptures, we think like sitting down with like paper scriptures or those like the electronic copies, taking notes and going really slow. One thing that my job allows me to do is just to listen to, like, essentially it's a speed read. And that's one thing I'd invite all of you to do is, the next time you go through reading the Book of Mormon or the New Testament or even the Doctrine and Covenants, just go through and listen to it as you're cleaning the house or driving to and from work or whatever it is. because it really it helps, at least it helps me understand the timeline better as far as, okay, this is happening. Like today, I kept thinking about some of the phrases that Paul was using, and I was like, wait a minute, Nephi said that. I was like, Nephi was way before Paul. That's because the gospel is true everywhere, as well, most of you know. And so that's my invitation to you, is to speed listen. You can speed read if you want. I'm personally am a very slow reader, unless I have time to sit down and read, which I don't. So that's why I listen, and it helps me kind of put everything into context and realize timelines and stuff like that. Like the other day when I was listening to Alma, when I listened from Alma 2 to Moroni 7, it's like 100 and something years after Mosiah sets up the reign of the judges that the sign is given about Christ's birth. And it's sad to see, even in that, just how, it's been maybe 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years since Mosiah, and just how wicked the people are. So, I mean, that's another example of what that type of reading has done for me. So that's my invitation for you guys.